I just freaking peed my cheeks, bro.
No, we're going to have to edit out that because that sounds like a swear.
Oh, is it recording?
It's been
Why
recording
are you
for a while. Because it's the only way that I can look at the levels and make sure that our levels are okay.
That's why we were like, why are you leaving?
Just took off. I started recording and my phone. I got my phone. My phone's gone. And then you come downstairs with Pop-tarts. My blood sugar.
I sound like an old person.
Jack Blab. Gotta get my blood sugar up. I'm having myself a little bit of a crash here.
My hands are shaking.
Diabetes.
Brought to you by, what's his name?
Diabetes.
No.
Wilford Brimley. He's passed away.
I know.
So I don't know if he appreciates the fact that we've been brought to you by
Wilford Brimley.
How about brought to you in part by?
From Beyond the Grave.
From Beyond the Grave. Brought to you spiritually by Wilford Brimley.
Oh, what a guy. Wasn't he Utah?
With that being said, welcome to the Twaddling Along podcast. We'll get into was Wilford Brimley from Utah later.
I'm looking it up.
I am your host, Dan McBride, here with my brothers and fellow co-hosts and also fellow travelers along this twaddling path, Jake.
How the heck are we going to make Wilford Brimley go along with Pilgrims?
And Josh.
Hey, he was born in Salt Lake City and died in St. George.
Really?
Yep.
Well, there you go.
He was a stuntman. Did you know that? Before his diabetes.
Before his diabetes.
He was a stuntman.
He was in a movie called The China Syndrome that I really liked.
He died of kidney failure for diabetes.
I think Jane Fonda was also in there. The same lady that makes the exercise videos. Hi, I'm Jane Fonda. She was in there.
Didn't she get arrested?
No, she had this thing where she, during I think it was the Vietnam War, and I might be speaking incorrect here, but I think
you guys should look it up on your phone before we speak, false doctrine.
No, I'm almost positive
Did
that
you say false doctrine?
In the 1960s, yep, she did an opposition to the Vietnam War, and so she was pretty much blackballed there for a while. Nobody would work with her because she was she was like, oh, I don't believe in the Vietnam War.
Nice.
So, but she did. I think it went a little bit above that. I think she was saying something about communism and everything. So I don't know. With that being said,
I like how you guys, without fail, you talk poorly of a celebrity at some point during our podcast. Almost every time.
That's because Hollywood's corrupt.
I will say this, Jane.
Great. Well,
if we wanted anybody to participate, sorry, there they go. Except for Brendan Fraser. Hey, Brendan, we're still there.
We love you, Brendan Fraser. He's the only one we trust.
Yep.
Someday.
No, Jane Fonda did a lot of good too. I mean, she got a lot of people fit. She's more fit than me, and she's got to be like in her 80s, and she still looks really good. So
I almost just said, so did Gene Simmons.
Oh, he just passed away too.
Not Gene Simmons.
Yeah, Gene Simmons passed away just barely.
No, Gene Simmons has a really long
I'm sorry. Yes, you are right. Gene Simmons of Kiss fame.
Richard
Not
Simmons.
Richard Simmons of Dancing with the Oldies fame.
I was about to be a little worried.
That's why I didn't say it.
When we start doing merchandising, I want a picture of Gene Simmons
with Richard Simmons.
Or better yet, Richard Simmons dressed up like Gene Simmons. Jake, get on it.
Oh, man. I don't even...
Is that copyrighted?
Oh, I'm sure. We'd get sued by everybody. But I think it would be really funny.
It would be really funny.
I think it falls within fair use.
Now, what we'll do is we'll put Josh's face on Richard Simmons and you on Gene Simmons' body.
And yours on Jane Fonda.
I'm going to be on Jane Fonda.
Hey, Richard Simmons was fit. I'd take that. It's better than my body now. I mean, it was very hairy. I will say this.
He
was a beast.
Hairy guy. And that white afro of his, legendary.
Was it real?
Legendary. I think it was permed. Or are you talking like, was it a wig?
No. I'm saying, was it a true curl or did he have it permed?
Oh, it's got to have been permed.
What if it's not?
Well, then that man has some genetics that are a little wonky. I don't know. And with that, let's dive into our actual topic. Our topic this week is not Jane Fonda, Richard Simmons, Gene Simmons, and the Vietnam conflict.
However, I will say this. They could be. Go ahead.
Could be
Sorry.
what?
I could have just spoiled the whole thing.
There's this other. There it is again. It's Josh's infamous now at this point. Grand pauses before finishing a sentence. Go ahead, Jake. It is Jake's turn. Jake did last week, but because of the way, or 2 weeks ago, but because of the way that our schedules did, Jake gets to pick the history topic this week, which is.
We are going to talk about pilgrims.
See, so they could be pilgrims of like pilgrimages and stuff. That's where I was going, but then I didn't want to give it away. Anyway,
Good heavens.
this is called an
Squirrel.
ADHD brain, people.
Tell us about pilgrims, Jake.
Before we do that, can we turn down my headset?
No.
Because Josh and you are loud.
I'm
You know,
sorry.
this is the very first time that you've told me to turn it down. Most of the time, you're like, turn it up,
I know. You guys kept talking, and I didn't want to interrupt.
turn it up.
And so
sorry, Jake.
here I am getting my earblood.
Is that better?
earbuds,
Ear blood.
eardrums blown out.
I'm sorry.
Oh, this is not good. I'm already stroking out. All right.
Is that a verb?
No,
Yes,
think
but
about it. It could be used on multiple different contexts.
And it's not. There you go.
Yep. We're good. All right.
Next question.
So I'm going to take this from the UCF website.
Which is what?
I have no idea.
I see.
I just
United's conference of.
it's an EDU, so it's a school of some type. I don't
University of
Oh wait, CF.
Central Florida.
UCF.
Yeah, I think that is.
Is it really?
They're. I think they're the Trojans in football.
No, that would be, that's the
that's
Utah,
USC.
It's USC. Let's see, UCF. University of Central Florida.
Oh, they're
Thank
Knights.
you very much.
They're Knights.
They are the Knights.
They're close to Trojans.
They're in Orange County.
Only several thousand years between the two. It's fine. They're the same thing.
That's fine. All right.
All right. Now, anyway, to quote, what was it? University of Central Florida.
Central Florida.
In their article, they said here, the closing song toward the end of the musical Hamilton is a profound statement about where history comes from. Who lives, who dies, who tells the story.
Who lives, who dies, who tells their story.
Who just broke every copyright law there is, so we can't
No,
post this
I
on
sang it.
YouTube.
I sang it off pitch.
Oh, good.
You think, is it the notes or is it the words?
Both.
Oh, okay. Anyway, what we learn about history depends on who was able to write down firsthand accounts and preserve them, says UCF Associate Professor of History, Rosalind. I'm hoping I say this right. Baylor. As we discover more information, it can change our perspective. Baylor teaches the history of New England, including the landing of the Mayflower, which happened on November 11th, 1620. Some students said they only learned one thing about the events in grade school. The Pilgrims sailed to the New World, made friends, and enjoyed the first Thanksgiving feast. We've learned that it wasn't so easy.
What did you guys learn about Pilgrims?
Well, pretty much that. They came over, they befriended a bunch of Native Americans, and they had a big celebration.
So I went to school in the early 90s before...
Dude, you have pie on your
I do.
pants.
Thanks,
Anyway,
Josh.
sorry.
So I went to school in the early 90s. And in the early 90s,
There's pie on your pants.
there was pie on my pants because of Thanksgiving. Oh, no, it was political correctness hadn't all the way caught up. I remember dressing as a quote unquote Indian for a Native American meal. And we're talking like war paint and like a feather in my hair. And if anybody needs a reminder, we are about as white as they come. And so
But we thought we were so cool.
little chubby Danny with war paint. Thinking back about it now, I'm surprised I haven't been canceled.
And now you brought it up.
To
and
be
now we're gonna
honest,
canceled.
well,
I
I'm
will
sorry.
say this. I have seen pictures of not you, Danny,
Oh,
but Jake and I, because we went to the same preschool, not at the same time, but at different times. I will not mention who it is because she is a family friend.
And she's a saint of a woman.
She is. But she had us dress up in that attire.
Isn't that funny? I was thinking about this, and ironically, it was because my kids were trying to pick a movie the other night, and one of the movies that they were going to pick was Pocahontas, and I was like,
that's a good show. Very
it is,
racist.
but it is whitewashed all to Kingdom Come, and I started thinking because I knew this was coming up. I was like, I wonder how whitewashed the story of the Pilgrims actually is. So, Jake, do you have any facts about the Pilgrims?
Oh, there's a ton of them. But since you brought this up, I will say that I am totally not prepared. I researched this for like 3 weeks. I checked it, looked it over, read stories, and then I woke up this morning and went, I can't remember anything I went over.
Do you know what's funny? I'll bring this up. Here, I'll take over. Here's what's really funny. The main source account that they have for the Pilgrims is a journal and a book written by a guy by the name of William Bradford.
Right.
William Bradford, his story was more like poetic. If you read it, it all rhymes. It's God sent forth the bird from the heavens and whatever rhymes with heaven. I'm not a rapper, but
Schmevin.
yeah, but
Levin.
Ooh.
The bread was not leaven. But anyways, do you realize that the account of Thanksgiving was not in his account?
Really?
It was taken by some other person, like of the next generation. It was a secondhand account of someone who was there.
Well, let's start from the very beginning and talk about who the Pilgrims were, because I think that there's a problem in the nation when it comes to the education about the Pilgrims, in that we kind of use Pilgrims and Puritans as one and the same, but they weren't. The Pilgrims were actually they were separatists. They were people that wanted to kind of abandon the Anglican faith completely. They literally ran from England, moved to Holland for a little while.
Netherlands.
Yeah, did I say the Holland? Wherever. Dutch, whatever.
Okay, we're fact checking. Netherlands. Yes, that's what it is.
Anyways, they ran out from England for a while, came back, picked up a couple extra people because they realized they didn't have enough people to make like a meaningful colony, and then sailed off. They were not Puritans. Puritans are people who wanted to purify the teachings of the Anglican Church, but were not separatists from the Anglican Church. And the only reason that I bring that up is because like the Puritans are the ones that are like the I am wearing black and white and wearing like solemn colors. And if anybody's ever seen the movie The Witch, which if you haven't, have you guys
said
ever,
which?
Have you guys ever seen that movie? It is It is freaky, but that is the Puritan culture.
Interesting.
I talked about not wanting to go into forests ever because I don't want to come across creepy stuff. Why do I want to watch a movie about a creepy thing?
I don't know, because
That's a lie. I like watching unexplained creepy things.
I'm a glutton for punishment. This was really good then.
Okay, so fun fact. So we're talking about the Anglican Church here. A few weeks ago, we had King Henry VIII, who was the founder of the Anglican Church, at least broke off from the Catholic Church. It was only about one generation after that this was occurring. So his King James the First / King James, let's see, what is he? King James the Sixth and First was what he was known as.
Sure.
Was after Queen Elizabeth I, which was pretty much the monarch. I mean, there was a few in between, but the long reigning monarch after King Henry VIII.
Mm-hmm.
And so in only a matter of 40 years, people who were super happy to leave the Catholic Church are now like upset about the Anglican Church.
Also, fun fact, he was the first unified king of Scotland and England, and was the son of Queen Mary of Scotland, who had her head cut right off. Wow. Yeah.
But he was a religious zealot.
As a matter of fact, the King James version of the Bible comes from this King James.
It was required for you to go to church, and if you didn't, you got fined. 24 pounds per day in today's money.
So these people wanted to take all those hardcore beliefs of King James and make them even more religious and zealous. They were like zealots to the nth degree. I mean, they believed in pure Calvinism. There is no hope. God has already preordained whether you will receive forgiveness or not. And so, and really, like, God is a God of anger and judgment and damnation and hell. I mean, it is some pretty lovely things. And so what do? They come to the United States and make popcorn string and have pie, right?
Yes. End of story.
The end.
No, so what's funny is that we are all very familiar with the Mayflower. That was what was taught. What's fun is there's actually two ships. There was the Mayflower, and then there was the Speedwell.
And it was a crap ship.
Then that's the thing. It was supposed to, if I remember reading this right, like the Speedwell was the main ship. The Mayflower was just for extra people.
I was going to say, I think the Mayflower was like the luggage ship.
Yeah, it was packed full of supplies, while the other one was supposed to be a higher end ship that was more comfortable.
But of course, the Speedwell decided that it wanted water in it.
I see.
So it started coming up, so everyone had to move on top of the Mayflower.
So did they sink it? Did it actually sink?
I don't know if it just says that it didn't get far before it started to take water, and all passengers had to board the Mayflower.
So it embarked twice from Great Britain and only made a certain far and came back, got repaired, went out again, kept taking on water, came back, and then they abandoned the idea of taking it and just took the Mayflower. Also, another fun fact, they then took two small ships and completely deconstructed them and put them on the Mayflower. So the Mayflower had two ships on it that were tiny ships. They were probably very small. But then also had that ship just in case there was more people.
Ooh.
No one knows what happened to the Speedwell.
Well, it's a conspiracy. That was one thing I was going to bring up is there's conspiracy that King James had sabotaged the ship so that they would die out in sea.
Because he was not a big fan of, what do they actually call themselves? And they didn't call themselves Pilgrims. That's a way later thing. Separatist, or there was some, Brownists.
Yeah, Brownists.
Because they believed in Robert Brown.
Oh, I was about to be like, why Brownists?
Yeah. There was a guy by the name of Robert Brown who was like one of the original separatists of the Church of England in 1620.
So here you have the Mayflower, 100 feet, which is about what, a basketball court, I think is 100 feet. Isn't that right?
Probably, roughly.
Sure.
So you have 102 passengers and 30 crew members. Now, not everyone on this was actually a pilgrim.
Mm-mm.
In fact, they were somewhat the minority. A majority of the other people, there was like 40 something, I think, pilgrims. The rest of them were just people looking for opportunity. They wanted to go somewhere else and see if they could make a living over on the new world lands that were out there.
Yeah, they were hired hand basically to take care of everything, and then the pilgrims didn't have as much to do for their payment of sailing over to the American continent.
They could just judge them. They also need, if you're going to establish a new colony, you need someone to judge. You need someone to look down on and be like, well, you're going to taste the fires of Satan, but I'm not.
Well, that means we're getting into like the Scarlet Letter kind of era.
That's true. I think that's more Puritan, though, too.
Yeah, yeah.
So maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm judging. Maybe the Pilgrims were just all like cheery, happy people. And they're like, oh.
I mean, if you look at our religious history, you're kind of the same.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway.
But yeah, so there we are, Mayflower. A lot of people, there are a lot of people that are, famous, that are descendants of individuals that came from the Mayflower.
Don't we have someone that came from the Mayflower?
We actually have quite a few.
We have quite a few. Inbreeding.
It's because we're so white.
But here's the thing. You say inbreeding, but there were like more than half. I think it was 2/3 were men. And then like more children than there were women. There was only a very small handful of women that actually crossed on the Mayflower.
Oh, really?
Yep. So it wasn't husbands and wives. It was a lot of men that were going over to establish the colony.
See, half of them died.
Yep. Yep.
They actually lost a good group of individuals.
And to be honest, a lot of people don't know is their main objective was to get to the Virginia colony first off, because that's where King James had established that you were going to be banished to the Virginia colony.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a huge storm that pushed them off course, and they ended up further north than they wanted to. So they were not planning to be outside of quote-unquote English colonies at the beginning. They were going to go and establish themselves already in an established colony. But they were pushed off course.
It's crazy to me that I guess I understand because elementary school kids aren't going to understand like, oh, hey kids, let's talk about the Pilgrims and how half of them died of dysentery. And then, the question becomes, well, what's dysentery? Well, you poop yourself to death. You poop until you die. Now, let's do addition.
I didn't even want to know that, and I'm a grown man.
Oh, sorry, Jake.
That hurts me.
So 120 combined passengers on 2 ships. 102 were chosen to travel on the ship with the supplies consolidated. What else? What do we know about their arrival?
So they didn't necessarily land on Plymouth Rock to begin with.
What?
In fact, they probably weren't even anywhere close to the Plymouth Rock.
Yep.
I've heard that like everybody who goes on like, the US history tour, the most disappointing place ever is the Plymouth Rock.
It's because it's behind a cage.
It is, and it's just like literally a rock. It
With
is like
1620 on it.
And the thing is they didn't land there. They didn't step off the ship on a rock. You have to row a boat to get to the thing because it's way too shallow. So here they are making this story. This rock is a sacred ground of God has sent us here. And it's just literally a boulder on the beach.
They probably got to the beach and were like, oh, thank heavens. Oh, they all collapsed on the beach. I don't think they were looking for a rock.
Do you know what they did? So it's funny that and I don't know why I was even looking at this, but they do know exactly what they said when they first landed because it was like planned for months and months and months. They wanted to land on the land. They wanted to land and immediately start praising God. So they said Psalm 100.
Oh, yeah.
Which is like it's called the Psalm of Thanksgiving. So they landed and immediately they were reciting scripture.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So they landed. Here they're finding, lands and stuff that had been somewhat cultivated already, which was very interesting for them at the time. But what had happened is previous colonists or individuals that had come had brought diseases that wiped out the Native American population.
The Wampanoag.
Yeah, it is projected that it killed 2,000 of those people, the Wampanoag people.
And they think it's smallpox.
Yeah.
Oh, they thought, okay.
Yeah,
that makes
that's
sense.
that's one of the things that I was just reading because we were talking a little bit before this podcast about, okay, well, what disease could it be? And it, smallpox is kind of the easy answer, but in this case, it really was smallpox. They actually found some like evidence of smallpox in the area.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because one of the ways they found out that they were settling in an already like settled town, not only with the farmland that was already planted, but they found a ton of mounds all over, and they were like, oh, that's kind of weird. This is man-made, and they dug them up to realize they were graves of the natives that had died by this disease.
Yeah, it actually says the outbreak had been severe enough that when the colonists discovered unburied skeletons within the dwellings. Mm-hmm. So here you are, you just landed at a place. There's a bunch of skeletons around. You say to yourself, let's
say Psalm 100.
This is a good place to stay. And that's when they broke out the turkey.
Yep.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Anyone want to break the wishbone? Which one?
Exactly. Oh my gosh. But that would be freaky.
Oh, terrifying.
You come on and, I've played video games where Call of Duty Zombies, whatever. That scares me. Now imagine walking off the ship you've been on for several months. You have scurvy, you're tired, whatever, and you walk into the shelter and boom, everyone's dead.
Wendigo.
Well, and the other thing is I can't help but wonder if they thought that they were cursed, because by that time there was only 47 of them left. So they left with, 100 some odd people. There's only 47 of them left. They were all so sick that there was only like a handful of them that were actually feeding them. The Mayflower crew, half of them are dead. You're surrounded by a dead village and not like a small village. We're talking a good size, probably had a population of 2,000 people, full of skeletons. Do you think that you start to like question things? Are you sitting in your longhouse or whatever they had built at that time and saying, did we make a mistake? Do we?
Well, you forgot one thing is the natives attacked them right after they came off the ship.
Oh, yeah.
They were shot out with arrows and things, and luckily no one died, and the white settlers shot back. But that was only within, the first couple weeks of getting off the ship, they were attacked immediately by the natives in the area, because the land that this town was on was also a sacred land because of the amount of dead that was buried around.
Sure.
And so.
Oh, well, what a happy tale. And
this is what you tell 6-year-old kids in kindergarten.
Happy freaking Thanksgiving, man.
So how the heck did Thanksgiving even come about? This is there's got to have been like happier stories like in the history. Why is it that we decided, the rebellious separatists of the already staunchly religious king who fled to Holland and the Netherlands decides to come back to England only to be literally sent away. Half of them die. They end up in a dead city. Why is that like, okay, let's celebrate that. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
I think it's one of those that here, especially for Americans, the idea of freedom is worth at any cost type of ordeal. And so here you have individuals who, in their own mind, were willing to sacrifice anything to achieve this religious freedom, which we hold very dear or have. And then also when they did actually
wait, I gotta go back. Or have little post-election blues there, Jake.
There's a little bit. No, I didn't. I didn't have any favor towards any party at that point.
Yeah.
I just stayed at my house and went, oh. No, what's interesting is that you have these individuals that face this, and then you have a group of what they considered savages. Which at the time I was watching a video was kind of interesting. Is savage didn't actually mean what savage means today.
Oh.
That was just the name for the Native Americans at the time.
It was just savage.
There was either Indians or savages. You had the Colombian ones, and then you had the English word, which was just savage. And then over time, savage became the word for derogatory or
for uncivilized and interesting.
Yeah. So and so you have these two groups come together and have a feast. And I mean, I'm sure we'll get to the point. But what happened is it wasn't a formal invitation.
No, it wasn't.
The Pilgrims weren't like, yes, come join us.
It was accidental at best.
Yeah, they were firing their weapons, and the Native Americans had made a treaty with them and were concerned, so they came running in and, oh, wait, everything's fine.
You guys are just shooting your weapons in the air.
Well, while we're here, let's eat.
Here, have some turkey.
They went and got 5 deer. The Native Americans went out, shot 5 deer, brought it in.
Man, they must have been good. I've been hunting before.
Seriously.
I didn't find nothing.
No darn things. It's funny. We say turkey, but one of the big things, literally, as I was looking into this when we were talking about the first Thanksgiving, every single article wants people to just know it wasn't just turkey. They probably had turkey, they had eel, they had shellfish, which for some odd reason.
Say that again, Danny.
Shellfish.
Were all selfish.
Were they being selfish with their shellfish?
They probably had lots of alcohol.
True.
And maybe that's continued down to today.
Well, we have red cheeks. I'm pretty sure that came from...
There was no potatoes.
They did have corn.
They did have corn. Yep. Corn was the
Which-
one thing that we know, but it probably wasn't in the form that we know corn as.
It's a multicolored the corn, whatever they call that.
It was,
Maize.
and it was probably ground down into more of like a cake.
Now, have you guys ever either had the cake or if you had in the Philippines, they would grind down corn and then cook it like rice?
Oh, interesting. Like a corn meal.
Kind of, yeah. it's-
Interesting.
Oh, interesting.
So it was a little bit different, but the natives were always very worried that Americans would get sick just because our stomachs weren't used to that. But
Sure.
I loved it. I thought it was
Sure.
great.
And no pie. So I was making all these jokes about pies before, but that was another thing they made very clear, that there was no pie because there was no butter, wheat flour, or sugar at the time.
Was pie a thing back then?
Yeah.
Was it?
Oh yeah, pie's
Now,
ancient.
as we know, was it a dessert or was it more of a meat?
It was
pie?
more of like a meat pie.
Okay.
Like and from my understanding, like when it came to actually eating pie, most people didn't eat the breading. It was just kind of a way to cook the inside, and it was almost like a could be eaten edible bowl, which is kind of weird. So
why can't we just keep pie that way now? Why do we have to add fruit?
you're not a pie guy?
I am not a pie guy.
I don't like pie.
I really, that is kind of
I want it.
every time we have a family meeting. I don't like pie. I don't
see.
want that.
Me and my wife were just joking about this. I could live off of like just pumpkin pie from now until the end of time.
Are you disgusting?
Love pumpkin pie.
Well, what's funny is I love pie crust.
I do love pie crust.
I think pie crust is good. I especially like when it's the ground graham cracker type of crust.
Oh yeah.
I like that, but I just don't like the inner side. I don't know. Dessert for me, it shouldn't be hot.
Oh,
That's the
Wrong.
weird thing for me.
wrong.
The only
Wrong.
we're gonna get in trouble, Dane. But what I mean, the only difference, I mean, flan. I love or flan.
Flan.
Yeah, sorry.
oh,
Oh, my Filipinos all just went, what the?
you guys are just
So what dessert
Gross.
do you like then, Josh?
not any of that crap.
You don't like flan?
Oh, flan's awesome.
Dude, that is like something that comes from like a fish's butt.
It actually comes from eggs.
Yeah, it's
So-
I know. It's so
whipped eggs.
slimy and.
Oh, no.
It's not that slimy.
You're slimy.
Oh, that makes me miss Grandpa.
Oh.
Oh, Grandpa. Our
Okay,
grandfather
wanna
loved
hear-
flan.
He would order it every time we would go out to eat at places that had it.
Or places that it even didn't. He would ask for it. Hey, do you have flan? And the McDonald's person was like, no.
It's like, do you have eggs?
You can make me some.
Okay, want to hear the conspiracy?
Oh, yes.
Oh, no.
Thanksgiving was not associated with what we think of as the Pilgrims until 1963.
Wait, that can't be right.
I thought it was the 1920s is when we more instigated it.
John F. Kennedy did a proclamation 3560 on November 5th, 1963 to settle a dispute of why we celebrate Thanksgiving. Because Thanksgiving, the holiday, was officially established by George Washington as a day of thanksgiving and prayer to acknowledge the signal favors of Almighty God.
Really? Well, but the problem is I mean, people were having Thanksgiving dinner well before JFK.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The thing is where the origin story was. Was it George Washington making it a holiday, or was it else? And John F. Kennedy, JFK, established that it was, we celebrate it because the American spirit started with the Pilgrims.
Oh, here you go. George Washington, leader of the revolutionary forces of the American Revolutionary War, proclaimed a Thanksgiving in December 1777 as a victory celebration honoring the defeat of the British Saratoga.
But what's interesting is in 1863, in the midst of the Civil War, President Abraham Lincoln proclaimed a national Thanksgiving Day to be held in November.
Yeah, and it says that the first, it started being observed in November 28th in 1782.
Yeah.
So was John F. Kennedy just taking credit for people's things?
So the thing
You're on Thanksgiving. That was my JFK impression.
It was my idea. Are you sure that wasn't Mayor Quimby?
I think it's the same thing.
but here's the crazy thing. So do you know why? This is what's super crazy. This is where the conspiracy comes in.
Oh,
Where was JFK from?
America.
Boston.
Boston, Massachusetts. There was a debate of whether the Pilgrims actually landed in Plymouth Rock and had the Thanksgiving there, or if it was the Virginia colonies that had the Thanksgiving, and that's where it was passed down. And so his declaration saying that it was the Massachusetts colony that established it was the actual place, and therefore making his hometown more of the American spirit than Virginia was.
And this is where Jake comes in and goes, I don't care. I just want turkey.
Seriously.
Give me turkey. Give me rolls.
Can you
potatoes.
believe that this was such a debate that a president had to come out and issue a federal proclamation?
I just want to know who was having that debate and why it was so important.
It says the Massachusetts and Virginia claims.
Like, so is it the whole states? Both states were just at war with each other.
It was almost a civil war, Jacob.
They had a wall in between them. They're like, we are going to take each other down if you don't proclaim this.
Isn't that crazy, though? Like, so everything that we were taught, we're just taught basically from the 60s about the origin of Thanksgiving.
I was just reading about Franksgiving. So Franklin Delano Roosevelt, every president from Abraham Lincoln up to Franklin Delano Roosevelt declared that Thanksgiving would be the last Thursday of November.
Mm-hmm.
Franklin Delano Roosevelt said, nope, it's going to be on the fourth Sunday instead of the the fourth Thursday instead of the fifth Thursday. And this only happened in 1939, 1940, and 1941. And the Republicans decried the change, calling it an affront to the memory of Lincoln. People began to refer to November 30th as the Republican Thanksgiving and the November 23rd as Democrat Thanksgiving.
Danny, are you okay? There's a lot
I know,
in there.
seriously. It's my childhood speech impediment coming out.
So you mean to tell
Sorry,
me
guys.
Thanksgiving is not a Thanksgiving at all? It was a political pawn.
Hey, wait.
Oh.
Sarah Josepha Hale, prolific author and especially the person who wrote Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Wow.
For 36 years, published numerous editorials and sent scores of letters to governors, senators, presidents, and other politicians to get Thanksgiving established as a national holiday. That's why she's considered the mother of Thanksgiving. I didn't know that.
I didn't either.
I've never even heard of it.
Mary Had a Little Lamb was written by the mother of
Oh
Thanksgiving.
my gosh. So wait a second.
Mary
Pause.
Had a Little Lamb.
It's all coming together.
Mary Had a Little Lamb has a whole new meaning. It wasn't a little lamb to enjoy with.
It was a lamb for Thanksgiving.
Who has lamb for Thanksgiving?
I would.
Some rich folk, bro.
Are you a lamb fan?
I like lamb.
I do like lamb.
I do like lamb too.
A
Maybe
garlic
I do.
lamb. Mm.
Maybe I'll do a lamb for Thanksgiving this year. I think that we're having it together.
You're going to do lamb?
I think maybe I'll do some lamb. I'll smoke a
As long
lamb.
as you don't show me the lamb prior to killing it. I'm fine.
Oh, so I can't like bring it to dinner and
No.
have the kids pet it and then say, "Okay, kids, we're gonna eat it."
That's the same thing that happened to a dog in the Philippines. They killed it and they're like, "Hey, do you want to eat this dog?" No, I don't. Thank you.
Oh well, that's lovely.
I petted that dog like the day before. It was so cute. I was like, "Yeah, no, thank you." Now, let me iterate. I don't think it's legal in the Philippines, but there are some people who do it anyway. So don't blame the Filipinos.
Well, according to Trump, Ohio's having.
We're gonna have to edit so much
Seriously.
stuff out.
No, I'm keeping this all in.
Are you
No.
kidding me?
It's just because elections were just a few days ago.
Of course. Of course, we tried to pivot over to the Thanksgiving and Pilgrim topic, but you gotta throw in a couple jabs here and there.
It was a political pawn by Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Mary had a little lamb who was pretty tasty with mint jelly.
Mint jelly?
Oh, yeah. Have you never had mint jelly with...
What is mint jelly?
You guys have never had mint jelly?
No, I don't.
Oh, so it's a jelly that is
like,
mint.
is that the
It's
like?
a jelly that's mint.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, this is gonna be gross. Is it like the after of like chewing gum and your spit comes out and that's the jelly?
No, it's a legitimate thing that people eat with lamb all the time. It's a mint jelly. It's just like you guys, applesauce and like pork chops. People eat those things together all the time.
Mint, I guess for me, mint is not supposed to be used for
As a food group.
Yeah, a meal. I don't even know. It's
You
it's
just-
used after a meal.
Every single Indian, and we're not talking Native American, we're talking from Asia Indian.
I was about to be worried for a moment.
Just heard you say that and is now never going to listen to this podcast again. Mint has been used. I mean, mint is used in samosas. Mint is used all the time in standard cooking.
I like to make my breath smell good after.
Hey, what's spearmint? Speaking of mint.
It's just a type of mint plant.
It's a mint that's attacked with a spear.
It's just like whipped cream. It was whipped. Sorry.
Poor cow.
Oh, do you guys remember? So Grandma used to make like full fat whipped cream that was like...
Have you seen us?
Yeah, there's a reason we're full fat. Heyo.
Now I feel bad about my figure.
No, but I like. Do you remember Thanksgiving from like childhood? You guys remember like the big family Thanksgivings that we would have, where it was like 30 individuals, and we'd have like 2 turkeys and like enough food to kill a horse.
Yeah, I just remember they had a chainsaw to cut the turkey.
Yeah.
Grandpa had to cut it.
And it was like something from the 1970s. It had like a 2-foot like electrical cord, and the thing sounded like it was going to like explode at any moment.
Yeah.
Do you know what's funny? Grandpa gave me one for my wedding.
No kidding.
Yeah.
So he gave you a turkey cutter?
Yeah, he gave me one. And I've used it once on a turkey, but I just couldn't do what he did with it. But it's cool, but it is really funny when you're sitting there and you're cutting a turkey and it's just...
Who created the turkey cutter? Why don't you just rip it off?
Why? Because it looks good. Half of food is the preparation. Like the way that you plate something, it's Epicurean.
Do you think the Pilgrims thought that?
I say I couldn't care
Probably
less.
not.
Oh,
I just throw stuff on a plate.
No, and I mean, the reality is the Thanksgiving meal as we see it is just an amalgamation of the harvest meal that has been happening for eons. I mean, there was always, you can go back generations upon generations upon generations, thousands upon thousands of years. And anytime there was a harvest, because everybody in the community was harvesting, it was kind of a communal thing, they would have a meal together afterward. So this isn't something like Thanksgiving isn't in and of itself like a new thing. It's just,
And I will say this. So I lived in Canada for a while, and they have a Canadian Thanksgiving. Way different than American Thanksgiving.
Yeah, what do you have for Canadian Thanksgiving?
Whatever's in your pantry.
Really?
Yep. I'm just kidding. It's literally the same thing.
Oh.
It's just on a different day. It's in October, except for November.
Whatever. I got some moose meat.
I got a canned spam.
No, it's not as big. I mean, it's big. It's still a holiday that you have off, but it's not like our Thanksgiving where it's this huge, everyone gets together kind of thing.
See, I love Thanksgiving.
I will say this, in the one Thanksgiving the 2 Thanksgivings that I had, it was explained to me that that's when the syrup harvest is.
Oh, see.
And so a lot of syrup was used in the Thanksgiving
When I picture
meal.
syrup harvest, it's like they're going around and it's like drip, drip. This is gonna happen.
Seriously?
We're gonna get syrup for this.
The
drip.
crazy thing about it, I was actually planning, and we'll have to do it another time, but I want to do a podcast about Halloween itself. Like,
We'll do it next year.
And where Halloween comes from and everything. But it's funny how many traditions we have, not only in Thanksgiving, but in Halloween and even in Christmas, that are just, they're harvest festivals. Like we are just literally celebrating kind of a continuous harvest festival for about 3 months. All of these things of, bringing trees into the house, Yule, eating Thanksgiving meals as a family together. They're all just part of harvest festivals, it's kind of nice. We have a connection with our ancestors in that way.
We're just missing out on the
Yeah,
booze
they
and
were
heavy
starving in their log houses with no heat.
Well, and that's why, like,
That's why they drank alcohol,
well, and
Yeah, that's true.
and had giant bonfires and
punched each other,
went door to door, and
kicked down doors.
they didn't kick down doors,
They
but
didn't?
they shared drinks.
Oh, they
with
didn't
each
have
other.
doors. That's right.
They wassailed. Here we go, a wassailing. Come on, did you guys not watch Claymation Christmas, where it explained the
I thought it was
wassailing?
waffling.
I thought it was waddling.
Here we go. I thought it was twaddling.
Oh.
See what we did there?
No.
That was pathetic.
Oh, I feel bad. So let's go back to the Pilgrims. So what happened to the Pilgrims?
They all died.
Did they
Just
all die?
kidding. No, they actually created a very successful community.
Yeah, I think that, and and we can't discount the fact that they did have a lot of help.
A lot of help from the natives.
A lot of help from the natives, the friendly natives, we
Mhm.
should say, that were around at that time. And even friendly natives isn't the right way to say it because it's not like the others were not friendly. It was more like, hey, you just kind of are camping out on our graveyard and we find that terribly sacrilegious.
Yeah.
Please stop. And then we're like, no.
Well, really, all it came down to is like they didn't want the northern tribes to attack them, so they were like, "Okay,
Let's make an ally.
let's make a pact here that we'll both protect each other."
Yeah, and that pact lasts for a long time until the death of their chief, who was a very famous chief. I can't remember his name right now. It starts with an M.
Massasoit.
Yep, that one.
How did I lose the website for this?
Yeah, Massasoit was the one
Oh, here it
who
is.
befriended the Massachusetts colony and was with them until the very end. However, relationships were kind of a little bit more strained as more Puritans moved into the area and didn't accept the pact that the Pilgrims had written down. And so towards the end, Pilgrim and native relationships were not as
We're
good.
kind of falling apart.
Well, and the nice thing is the only reason this was really able to be established so well is because they had Squanto.
Yeah, Squanto was the translator.
Squanto was a big part of this.
And so, for anyone that doesn't recognize that name, he was a Native American that spoke English pretty much fluently and perfectly. Mostly because he had been dragged away as a slave a few years before and
Yep.
taught
Mhm,
English,
mhm,
and then he
yep.
made it back.
30 years, and then he was sold off to an English merchant.
But I think he was actually, his family was part of the tribe that got wiped out.
That specific
the
town.
Pilgrims came, yeah.
Yep.
You know, and you never hear that. Now, I will tell you, in my time, at least in elementary school, I remember learning about Squanto. But it was always under the guise of, oh, Squanto he was a great translator. And never, the fact that he was a slave.
And
a
for
survivor.
us, we actually had a book
On
that was
Squanto?
that was read to us about Squanto and what he had gone through. So it was one of those like hearing about his story and how he ended up the way he did.
Now, I'm going to be the devil's advocate. Are you ready?
Oh,
Squanto made a move for power.
he did.
He was wanting to take over the entire native clan, the Wampanoags.
And the Massachusetts.
Yep. And so what he
Not
did
the state, the actual tribe.
is he knew that he had power as a translator of English. So he knew that he could probably manipulate for them to go to war and claim himself as chief. However, there was an event, I can't remember if it was like a ship in the bay or something that kind of distracted everyone.
Well,
or-
so he was supposed to be killed. They
that's
were
right.
they were hesitant to give, or the colonists were hesitant to give Squanto over to the tribe to be executed.
because he was the only translator.
Yeah, and so it came down to it. It's like the colonists recognized that they had to give him over according to the agreement they had, and that's when a ship came by and kind of threw everything into
They're like, ooh, ship.
and Squanto's like, oh, thank heavens.
Yeah, but he ended up going
Oh,
on to
holy
be
shit.
very, very successful.
Except he died pretty terribly.
Oh, I didn't read that.
Yeah, Squanto came down with the Indian fever. Once again, it could have been a whole number of different things. It probably was smallpox or something else along those lines. But the Thomas Bradford, who was the kind of the main Plymouth governor at the time, who was with Squanto, wrote that it was probably the most horrific thing that he saw, because he was like bleeding out of every orifice and like spasming and seizing and everything. So not the best way to end for Mr. Squanto, that's for sure.
We're so grateful for our audience and they're listening to us at this point. Bleeding out of orifices. It's great.
Happy Thanksgiving all. Well, let's go back to some more fun facts.
So here's a fun fact. Do you know why the Pilgrims are pictured with their weird hats and buckles and stuff?
No.
That was their Sunday attire.
It was their Sunday attire from the Netherlands.
Oh.
In fact.
And they only wore it on the Sabbath or their day of, what's it called? So their day of, I can't think of it. Oh, shoot.
They're religious.
It's on the days when they're brought down in their sins and seek forgiveness. Kind of,
yeah. The days of penitence.
Yeah, I know, and I don't know if it's similar, but in reading about it, it reminds me of when the people put the ashen cross on their forehead.
Sure.
For Lent.
For Lent.
That I saw a lot of people do that in the Philippines, and usually the people, they would walk around very solemn and everything. I wonder if it was something similar. But other than that, they wore very colorful clothing.
Yep.
When I looked up actual clothing of the Pilgrims, because I've always, every time I picture Pilgrims, it's the buckle hat, all the stuff. The ladies are wearing that scary looking Salem outfit that they're always burned in on the Salem trails.
Did occur not too far from where they landed.
No, but wasn't that like a few decades later?
Yeah. So they landed in
1620.
Yeah, 1620.
They had Thanksgiving, well, what we would consider Thanksgiving in 1621.
1614 and then in 1621, because it took a couple of years, I thought.
No, the Virginia colony was established earlier.
That's what it is. In Salem, the Salem witch trials took place in 1692.
Gotcha. So about 70 years later, we went mentally insane and killed young women because they were witches.
We'll have to talk about that at some later point, too.
I was going to say, one thing that we need to kind of bring up is that for the most part, the belief of the burning witches is not actually unusual for the people that came over here. That was actually a very strong belief of the separatists and the Brownists, that there was evil made incarnate in the world, and that they were witches. So,
hey, fun fact, my father-in-law told me this. Do you know where witches come from? Like the top hats and or not the top hats, but like pointy hats and brooms and stuff?
No.
Harry Potter.
They were the alcohol makers. And so they wore those hats to be...
And then did it turn into alchemists doing a similar thing?
Exactly, because they made alcohol, and they had brooms because the smell of the alcohol and the wheat and stuff would attract mice. And so they would sweep it away, and the cats would be around.
That's interesting.
See, and every time I think of witch, I just think of Gruntilda from Banjo-Kazooie.
Speaking of Banjo-Kazooie, right now I am replaying a Banjo-Kazooie with my son because he's never played it. It is as fun as I remembered.
Oh, I do. I do an annual run. I do an annual run of Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie, and Banjo Nuts and Bolts.
Fun fact, I've never beat those games.
You've never beat them?
You've never beat them?
Never beat them.
You literally have access to it through your Game Pass. Why are you not doing that?
I got pretty far in Banjo-Kazooie, but then never finished.
When I was young, what was funny is I only ever beat the first 3 courses, and then I never knew how to get up to the Bubblegum Swamp one.
Mm-hmm.
And so I usually just restarted. And what was funny is I think I restarted and erased Danny's game more time than I can count.
Probably.
Dang.
Did I beat you up for it? If I did, I'm sorry.
You beat me up for so many other things I can't remember.
I'm sorry for all those reasons, too.
Yeah. Interesting. We can get in discussions about brotherly, relationships.
Next week's podcast.
And all the fun things.
Just kidding.
Next week's podcast, generational trauma.
Wait, so is that going to be under the paranormal?
Or the human experience maybe later.
Yeah, so I want to end on some happy notes because, good heavens, we've gone through kind of the ringer with all these.
What's fun is when you look at holidays now, they do sometimes have historical significance, but more often than not, the holiday isn't so much about the past anymore. It's about the stuff of the present.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big thing. I mean, when you look at the history of a lot of different holidays, you're like, oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
And the way that we turn things into happy occasions now for many of them.
And that's exactly what the Pilgrims did. I mean, as we talked about, all of them died. They had these horrible diseases and stuff, but they still came together to celebrate their first harvest.
By shooting guns in the air and then making the neighboring tribe panic.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, so here's my happy thoughts. What are you guys looking forward to on Thanksgiving food-wise? Josh. Josh doesn't like any food.
So I really love mashed potatoes. I feel like we don't have mashed potatoes enough nowadays. Because I don't know if you guys remember growing up, we had it all the time.
Do you know why that is? Mom and Dad bought or received, I don't even know if they bought it, but
the 40
tons and tons and tons of the instant potatoes. And so
I didn't know what normal potatoes tasted like.
I
for
liked
the
instant
first
potatoes
decade of
more
my
than
life.
I liked raw instant potatoes. You just throw the whole thing in your mouth and turn it to mashed potatoes in your mouth.
And I did.
I loved it.
gosh.
I did not like instant potatoes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, every time Mom and Dad made it,
Now-
I just
Now that I've come to love real potatoes, I can't
see.
go back.
I can do both now.
Interesting.
Yeah, but my thing is, I season my instant potatoes with garlic, salt, a little bit differently. They add a little bit of additional flavor.
Ooh.
But
I didn't eat
man,
dinner, man. I'm going to get hungry.
well, the problem is I didn't eat either, and that is sounding.
So with that being said, Jake, what are you looking forward to on Thanksgiving?
So one thing that happened to me over the course of the last, decade and a half, going to a different country, and doing other things is that I love the combination of flavors.
Oh, interesting.
And so my favorite thing about Thanksgiving is if I can get a roll, butter up the roll super well, and then you put mashed potatoes, stuffing, and then some dark meat turkey on there and eat that together. I love that flavor. Like there's just all those different flavors going together. It's one of my favorite things to eat because I'm not a gravy person.
I'm not either.
Which is interesting because I do like the combination. But
psycho.
See,
I
I'm not
love
a gravy
gravies.
person, but I lived in Canada where their top
It is
dish is
gravy.
poutine. But anyway,
and Josh looked at and if you have Josh thinks about any type of like sauce or soupy something, and he starts gagging.
And like this
true.
is my favorite. You can say something like, "Hey, Josh, picture spaghetti.
dude, shut up.
Picture
Stop it right now.
spaghetti
Splosh
with
Splosh.
some sauce on top of
So,
it,
okay, I need to tell a story.
going into
really
the
quick.
sink."
It was Mother's Day. How many years ago?
3.
3 years ago? Oh my gosh.
So yeah, it's second
So
on mine.
I was not bad until I married my wife. God bless her.
That is not true. You just ignored
That's
every
true.
food.
Well, on Mother's Day, the men were cleaning the kitchen and the food and everything, and my brothers, being the jerks that they are.
We are not.
Well, the problem is you pointed it out.
Yeah,
That's true. I pointed out that I have a hard time looking at sauces.
you exposed your weakness.
And so my brothers proceeded to torture me with moving the sauces a certain way, making sounds. And so I was gagging and almost threw up out in the back.
he did.
We started making gagging noises. What was funny is Danny made so many gagging noises, he actually started
I
gagging.
actually started getting gagging too. Yeah.
Yep. And so I had to run outside because I thought I was going to throw up just because a bag of spaghetti sauce was held in front of me.
Well,
And
it was held in front of you, and then we would slosh it back and, forth,
and then gag.
and then gag.
But yeah, I'm pretty bad.
And our dad is in hysterics. Meanwhile, all the wonderful females of our life that were celebrating that day are in the other room going, "What the heck is going on?" As we're like, "What?"
Which brings me to my favorite thing about Thanksgiving, and it's
Gagging.
going to be sentimental.
Oh,
It's coming together. I am a big fan of like sharing food and like eating and laughing and all that.
which when it comes to us,
Oh, and I love turkey. Oh, I love turkey so much.
is it mostly the tryptophan? Because afterwards you're
love
like, I'm just
turkey.
gonna go to sleep.
No, I just love turkey in general. Like I will occasionally just go and buy like a turkey breast just for myself.
See, and
You like the turkey leg.
I would love that.
I love the turkey leg
I would
too.
love that.
Oh,
yeah.
I love the turkey.
The problem is where do you get it? Because I cannot find it during the year.
Winco.
Serious?
For all you Utah people, Winco for some odd reason has all of those exotic or semi-exotic meats all throughout the
That's
year.
literally up the street, and I haven't gone and looked. because I would love to cook some turkey leg. Like I have the recipe that they use at Disneyland.
What?
And I would love that.
Oh, see.
Well, the unofficial recipe, I should say. Sorry.
And a hint for everybody that are doing turkeys this year. If you are planning on doing a turkey, one of the best ways that I have found to not dry out the meat is something called spatchcocking. Sounds dirty. It is
Split in
not.
half?
You take out the spine and you smash it down.
You took what?
You take out the spine of the turkey.
Okay.
So you literally just snip the spine of the turkey out. You flip the bird over and you smash down on its ribs so it splays all the way out. You season it up. It is so good. Oh,
Well, we're expecting you to cook the turkey this year,
I'm
so.
gonna cook. I'm gonna cook like 12 turkeys. And
But I also want you to smoke some ribs.
you want some smoked ribs
I do want some.
I thought we were having lamb.
and some. It's just gonna be meat.
Here, let's
We're
just
gonna have
Happy
we're gonna
Thanksgiving,
we're gonna have a
everybody.
German holiday. We're just gonna have meat galore, and then you guys won't hear from us anymore because we're all gonna have unfortunately.
Mass heart attacks.
Which, if you remember, we're all familiar with because we've all been to the ER thinking we've had heart attacks.
Or we've been in bed and have our arm go numb because we slept on it wrong, going, "Oh, this is it."
This
This
is
is
it.
it. This is the end.
So between Thanksgiving and then Black Friday the next day, just expect the next announcement for
A lovely
the
little.
twaddling about podcast will be all of our obituaries. The wives coming on and doing a podcast about how we all died.
I'm looking.
And the
forward
problem
to the
is
episode.
it's gonna be one where they're like, "We didn't think it was gonna happen, but it happened."
And then you can tune into our podcast anytime because we'll be on the radio waves at that point.
That's true.
Get it? Because we'll be dead.
I don't get it.
Something about ghosts, probably.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, is that what?
That's how ghosts
we're
communicate.
we're gonna be so bored when we get to the other side. We're gonna be like, you know, what would be fun.
Radio waves.
Radio waves.
You realize how annoying I'm going to be if I'm a ghost because I will literally do the ghost voice all the time just for no reason. Ooh.
So it's walking through Macy's. What the?
All right.
I'm going to be shopping for ramen because I'll be hungry and people will be like, what the heck is going on?
The ramen's
The
moving.
ramen's haunted. Okay, final thoughts, Josh, on Pilgrims and Thanksgiving.
Pilgrims, very interesting people. I'm glad that they came over because they did kind of establish a religious freedom for this country, which I'm very grateful for. And Thanksgiving, I'm just excited to get fat.
Oh, amen to that. My final thoughts when it comes to Pilgrims, it is fascinating to me that the older I get, the more I realize that history is kind of written by whoever kind of wins.
Who lives, who dies,
Yeah,
who tells
like
you
and
a
it's crazy
story.
how just something like the Thanksgiving dinner, which for all intents and purposes, you start learning that in kindergarten.
Yeah.
You know the history and everything, or at least you know the history can still have so many little surprising facts. And when it comes to Thanksgiving, I am also excited to get fat.
Oh, now it's my
And
turn.
now it's Jake.
Oh, okay.
Final word for Jake.
My favorite thing about these histories is, they do have differences than sometimes we're taught and everything, but you think about what these people did. These people,
Incredible.
They came out here. I mean,
The gumption.
yeah,
Yeah.
and the fact that we are descendants of them, that like they carried on, that their posterity continued, and that we're now established in a nation that initially they had colonized, is just mind-boggling.
It
to me.
is. It is.
I think that is so cool. It's like, there's going to be weird things with history. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of things you're like, now that I know a little better, it's a little different. But at the same time, there still is that, wow, that they did that. That is crazy. And I'm super excited for Thanksgiving, mostly because I don't have to work that day and I can eat food.
Amen.
And then go to work the next day and be like, I made a mistake.
And on that note, we are back for these next 3 weeks. Look for us next week where Josh will get to pick a paranormal subject. Don't say it yet, Josh. Leave them in suspense.
He already stated it. It's the
Oh, yeah, that's
the
right.
horrors of growing up with brothers.
The horrors of growing up with brothers.
Being the youngest.
So look for that. Also, as a reminder, if you do have any ideas of future episodes that we can do, you can always email us. That is emails@twaddlingalong.com. And be on the lookout, look at our website. There's some exciting things that might be happening here sooner than later. And other than that, we will see you next week.
Yeah, just one more thing before he closes off. We do have a YouTube channel now that has some fun shorts of Jake drawing our cartoons and, fun segments of our podcast. So go ahead.
Do we have more than one?
We will have more than one when this comes out, yes.
Okay.
So go ahead and check that out. That will come out. I don't know if it'll come out weekly, but there will be stuff that will come out, and it's fun to see Jake's imagination run wild with these things.
What's funny is some of them are ones I just started with doodles for other things, so we're going to have to edit some of the content. Because there's like a weird face I just drew, and I'm like, what would look good on this face? Danny's face.
And with that, thank you so much, all.